Hello and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel, and welcome back to the first preview of the 2023-24 season. For those that have kept a close eye on the fixtures, we are kicking it off with an away game away at Bolton Wanderers. So, therefore, I am joined by Ed from LOVRBWFC, who is obviously a podcast on their end. How's it going, Ed?
Yeah, not bad. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Looking forward to the start of the season. What about you? Are you optimistic, excited?
Yeah, cautiously optimistic, I think, this season. Last season was a little disappointing. Just to make the playoff semis, we were kind of disappointing in 2 legs against Barnsley. So there's a lot of optimism between fans this season that we can possibly go one step further this season.
Well, I think that's a really good kind of place to start. A lot of people, most of the presenters on the Stacey West as well, have put you in, if not the top 2, then at least the top 3 in sort of the League One predictions. Obviously it's really hard when it's your club that's being touted as a title contender to actually admit it yourself, not wanting to jinx it and all of that, but do you genuinely see yourself being able to be in that position come May next year?
Yeah, it kind of feels weird saying that because we've had so many rough years before the last few years with Everett. And as a Bolton fan, we know really not to be optimistic, and we're more pessimistic than anything. But this season feels different. It just feels like we're ready to take that step back to the Championship. I don't know if I'm confident enough in saying that we'll finish top 2. I'd love us to finish in the automatic places. I think that's where Ian Everett wants us to be. I think it's where the majority of the fans want us to be. But I just can't bring myself to say that, we'll run away with the league or we'll finish second comfortably like last season Plymouth and Imps did. I can see us definitely being in the playoff places, but I think realistically we need to be more consistent across the full season, and all the players need to be playing really well, and I think we need to get more goals in there, and if we can do that, then I see no reason why I can't finish top 4, and maybe if we get a good enough run going, finishing in those top 2 places, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
Well, that's the thing. It's a lot easier to say it from the outside looking in than actually admit it yourself, isn't it? And that's how yourselves are going to be thinking. That's how I'm sure a lot of Derby fans are going to be thinking, Portsmouth fans, because those 3 are very much touted as the 3 contenders, I think, at the minute. But you never quite know how the whole season is going to go. So normally at this stage of a preview, I'd then go on to ask about the form. But obviously, first game of the season. So just quickly touching on pre-season, what's your pre-season form been like? Obviously, I know the results don't necessarily matter too much, but what have performances been like?
Yeah, we've had an unbeaten pre-season. I think it started off a little slow. I think our first game we drew against... we had a narrow win against Bamber sorry. And then a couple of decent results against non-league teams. And then the last 2 games have been the most pleasing, really, from a performance point of view and from a result point of view. We drew 0-0 with a fairly strong Everton team. Well, the first half team is fairly strong anyway. And we probably should have gone on to win that. I think we're very unlucky not to snatch it the second half. And then the Saturday just gone, we beat a pretty good West Brom team 4-3 as well. Yeah. So that was very pleasing as well because we'd come from behind twice to level it up and then took the lead twice. So clearly, if we can score goals against the team in the league above, it goes well for the season coming ahead.
That's really promising. Then is the fact that you conceded 3 goals kind of a showing that you've got a bit of a leaky defence, or is that more just simply the fact it was pre-season? It was obviously everything could just be not quite as what you'd expect.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of both in there, isn't there? Really, possibly just. Switching plays around, giving people extra minutes who might not necessarily start the season in the starting 11. I think it's just, more than anything, just getting minutes in the legs, isn't it, a pre-season? Yeah. It's maybe a little worrying that we're conceding 3, but it is the team in the Championship, and we did manage to score 1 more than them, so that's pretty pleasing. We did keep a clean sheet against Everton. But I don't put too much into results in pre-season. It's more just getting the minutes in the legs, and hopefully, because we've kind of proven we've got a fairly decent defensive record in League One, we can carry that on this season.
Oh, that's that's like I say, it isn't about the results, and I guess kind of when you look at the sort of the top level, the headline stats, you know, the fact that you've conceded 3 can look to some like it is a leaky defence, but realistically, like you've said, pre-season it really doesn't matter, and the fact that you've still gone out and bested them is impressive. And like I say, you obviously have got a very strong defensive record in this league, and it's this league that you're playing in this season, not the Championship. Mm-hmm. Although obviously, I'm sure you'd wish it was the other way around. Yeah. So kind of moving on to the transfer window then. I'm going to kind of throw it over to you. Obviously, I know you've made some really promising transfers, but if there was 1 or 2 that really stand out to you as these players are going to make a massive impact this season, who would those be?
I think the 2 that stand out to me would probably be Nathan Baxter in goal and Carlos Mendes-Gomez as kind of like a attacking midfielder forward kind of option.
Yeah,
Baxter came in. Obviously, we had James Trafford last season, who kept 22 clean sheets in the league, which is a tremendous amount. And he's obviously had an unbelievable summer with England under-21s, keeping a clean sheet in every single game, especially in that final when he saved the penalty and got on the win, which is great. And then obviously he's moved for £15 million to Burnley. So it just shows the quality that he has. And I think he's going to have a really promising future in the game. So it was a ball to lose him. Obviously, we've not got £15 million and he's not going to want to come back to a League One team. So there's a lot of weight on Baxter's shoulders to try and emulate what Trafford has done in the last 18 months here. Mm-hmm. And being a Chelsea Academy graduate, having all that Championship experience with a couple of loans at Hull, it looks like he's going to be a really promising signing, and he looks like he'd pretty much be a really good option to fill those the boots that Trafford's left. Carlos Mendes-Gomez really excites me because I think he had a good season on loan at Fleetwood last season. He was tremendous with Morecambe when they got promoted alongside us a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. He got 15 goals in the league that season. I think, just sadly for him, I think Luton progressed quicker than what he probably expected. I think if they'd stayed in the Championship this season, he probably would have stayed there and got some minutes. But obviously, they're a Premier League team now. It's better for them to cash in on a player who's not going to be able to play as much, and they probably won't risk in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. But I think he's a tremendous player in League One. And at times last season, we were missing that kind of attacking option in midfield, someone who could like link midfield and attack and create chances and really just be a real flair player, run at defenders and create lots of chances and score goals. And I think he can be that the missing link for us this season, definitely.
I mean, I would definitely agree. You know, it's a really promising signing, that one. I was like I say, coming off a decent enough season at Fleetwood, and I think I agree. I don't think he would have been quite ready for a first team Championship move, but I think a top level League One this season, with obviously the hope of you guys being in the Championship next season, is the perfect kind of move, not just for him, but for yourselves as well. So it's a really beneficial move for all parties, which is the sort of things you like to see at this level. Obviously, you mentioned sort of Nathan Baxter coming in to replace James Trafford. Obviously, it's always going to be really difficult to replace somebody like that. We had the same thing with Carl Rushworth last season. He's obviously gone on into the Championship now, with a loan move up to Swansea, and obviously Swansea are going to hope to be challenging. So we've had to bring in, we've brought in Lucas Jensen on a permanent. So hopefully we've replaced him well. So we're kind of in really similar positions in that kind of area. Another player I'd just like to pick up on, because as a Lincoln podcast, I kind of got to Dan Lundaloo. Obviously was on loan at us. Not last season, the season before, for the first half of the season before then going off to Cheltenham. And you had him for just the second half of last season, didn't you? Before, obviously, then him coming in permanent into the summer. How do you feel that he can kick on for you?
Yeah, I think he's a mixed one with fans, definitely. I think a lot of the fans will agree our January business, for whatever reason, the players just didn't work out. The likes of Victor Abayejo, Cameron Jerome, Dan Lundaloo, Shaw Tyre, they just didn't work for whatever reason. They didn't hit the ground running, inconsistent performances. And it's unfortunate, really, because our January business the last couple of years has been really tremendous and kind of pushed us on for the second half of the season. It did in League Two, and then it did in League One, and we kind of just fell short of the playoffs a couple of years ago. But yeah, Unwonderly is really interesting. Clearly, Ian Evatt really rates him, and obviously we're not seeing him every day on the training pitch. I just don't think we've seen the best of him in a Bolton shirt yet. I think he was really good in our friendly against Everton. I believe he came off the bench and played really well. But from January, the second half of last season, he just kind of got an injury early on, wasn't really fit enough to start in a lot of games. And he got a goal on the final day of the season against Bristol Rovers, really good finisher from outside the box. So I just don't think we've seen the best of him yet. It's a really big season for him, obviously moving on a permanent away from Southampton. We've obviously spent a fair bit of money on him. Ian Evatt clearly thinks he has a promising future, but I don't see him starting yet. I don't think he's the best option alongside Dion Charles at this moment in time. Whether Ian Evatt agrees or not remains to be seen, but I can see him coming off the bench and being one of those players who slowly builds into games, and hopefully he can have a big impact this season.
I think that's totally fair enough. For us, we didn't see the best of him, but again, I don't necessarily blame that on him. It was sort of the way we kind of were that season as well. It didn't really suit him, and so on and so forth. But he very much looked to me like there was a player in there. It was just about being able to tap into that potential. And obviously, hopefully, Ian Evatt can do that over time, even if it isn't instantaneous for you, but second half of this season or moving forward, whatever. So I think there's definitely the option for him to improve, and obviously then improve you as a team. So whilst we're still kind of talking about your players, obviously your new players, I would just like to pick up on one more player that you've signed, being Josh Dackers-Cogley. Now, we were linked with him at the very start of the window, very tenuous links. There was a couple of sites that linked us with him. But a lot of Tranmere fans that I spoke to at the time, and other League Two fans that I spoke to at the time when we were linked with him, only had positive things to say. So it seems like you've got a real player on your hands there. Is he somebody who you think is going to be able to come in and whether start or at least play a good amount of minutes?
At this moment in time, yeah, because I still think we're missing a right wing back. Obviously, Gethin Jones could play there if he really needed to, but I feel like we're kind of missing another option, like an out-and-out right wing back. Obviously, last season we had Connor Bradley on loan from Liverpool. Yeah. He's going to have a tremendous career because he was our player of the year last season, our young player of the season. Really had a huge impact. But one thing that Ian Evatt's really done well in his time with us is sign right wing backs. For whatever reason, every single right wing back's worked. Whether it was Peter Kioso a couple of years ago, Gethin Jones for a moment, Marlon Fossey in the 21-22 season, he came in, he was great, and then Bradley last season. So hopefully Dackers-Cogley kind of follows suit in that. He's been our first choice all throughout pre-season. Obviously, like you said, he was linked to yourselves, linked to Bristol Rovers. He's been linked to Aberdeen in the past. So there's a lot of clubs who've had an eye on him. We're a really good couple of years in League Two with Tranmere. I think he just had to prove himself because it just didn't work out at Birmingham for him. And they, obviously, like you said, they've all had really good things to say about him. I think they're a little peeved that he's ended up at us, which is quite funny. But yeah, at this moment in time, he's probably going to be our starting right wing back. He's looked promising in pre-season, and hopefully he can kind of emulate what Bradley did. I don't think he'll do it as well as Bradley did, but if he can chip in with a similar amount of assists and a couple of goals here and there, I think he'll be a good player this season.
That's fair enough. Hopefully he really can perform for you. Or if not, maybe he has a bit of a slow season and then we look at him again. But that's another kind of wishful thinking. But yeah, no, you've definitely got like I say, you've got some really good. You've obviously had a really good transfer window on paper. Whether it can, it can kind of manifest itself into a good season is yet to be seen. But it definitely looks like you're going to be up there, challenging. Or I don't think any one team's going to run away with the league. There's going to be a few that are separated from the rest, and I think you're going to be up in that top mini league, like we had last season with the three running off. So, like I said, whilst we're talking about your players again, then how do we expect you to be lining up in kind of formation and tactics come Saturday?
It's going to be three at the back. Probably a 3-5-2 with kind of two central midfielders and then another midfielder in behind two strikers.
Yeah.
I'd like to. The definitely back still be playing. I think Randall Williams has had a tremendous pre-season at left wing back. He'll be a dead cert. Obviously, Santos is our captain. I think we've got a really good spine in the team. I think Santos, Kyle Dempsey, you've got Morley, Sheehan, and Dion Charles up top, who'd probably be definite starters. But it just remains to be seen whether Carlos Mendes Gomez will start, because he didn't have a pre-season with Luton. He didn't get any minutes. The only first minutes he had was against Everton last week. Dacus Cogley will probably start at right wing back. It'll be interesting to see whether Will Forrester will get the nod, who we signed from Half Ale in the summer, promising young centre half.
I was going to say another good sign in that one,
Yeah, seems like a really good prospect. And George Johnson, unfortunately, has had a season-ending injury in our first pre-season game against Bamber Bridge. Had a really unfortunate ACL injury because he had a tremendous season last season. So it just remains to be seen who's going to take his spot at left centre-half. It's probably going to be Jack Iredale. But right centre-half is up for grabs between Forrester and Gethin Jones. It just depends who gets the nod there. And then another midfielder who could come in is George Thomason. Another youngster we've got who's every year he has a really good pre-season, and then just for whatever reason doesn't get in the team or has a niggly injury, which kind of stunts his progression. But really interesting who we cut out on Saturday. But it'll be 3-5-2. It just depends who's going to partner Dion Charles, who's going to go in midfield, and who's going to be alongside Iredale and Santos at centre half.
Okay, so that looks like it could be good for us. We're going to set up in a more than likely a 3-4-3 with, the two wing backs in a home game against a Cheltenham would be pushing forward a lot. Away at you guys, we're going to have to obviously be a lot more conservative. That's just the way it's going to be, which is understandable. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of lines up, obviously on the pitch on Saturday. So thinking about Lincoln, how does a team like Bolton, going into that first game of the season, how do you guys view playing us?
It's not just you guys, but I feel like it's the easiest month on paper that we've had in years. No disrespect to you guys.
No.
But last season we started away at Portman Road, and I think we did very well to come out with a draw there. Season before was a home game against MK Dons, who were obviously pushing for the play. I think they finished in the playoffs that season a couple of years ago. So I just feel on paper this is the easiest month we've had. Obviously, football isn't played on paper; it's played over 90 minutes. Anything can happen in League One. But we did, as Bolton fans, we've got high expectations for this season, especially, and we just feel like with the first opening few games we've got, those are the kind of games we should be picking up points, especially at home. I think home form's going to be really important. I think we've been really good under Everett for the most part at home. It'd just be interesting to see how the ex-Wanderers do. I don't know how many will start. I know you got Tyler Walker. You just signed Ethan Hamilton, who last played. Aki beat us at the end of April, and he was playing in midfield that day. Same with Lucas Jensen, who I think ran 50 yards to do a knee slide and celebrate with the away fans when they beat us. Being an ex-Wanderer, but he never played. He was just kind of a second or third choice in our League Two season. But it'd be interesting to see how those three do. But we've got the expectations that we should be beating you, but anything can happen in League One.
I think that's reasonable. We're very much going there with the hope of a point, a prayer for 3, but we're not exactly going to be that dismayed if we come away with a loss, because like we've said, you are going to be one of the title contenders. So playing your first game of the season is probably one of the better times to play you, because you haven't been able to put together a role. You're not on a run yet, but it's still not an easy game at all. So I guess kind of round it up, nice simple question. It's always an easy question. Score prediction. What we saying?
First game of the season, I think it's going to be close. I'll say 2-1 Bolton.
That's fair enough. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, because our last 2 opening games have been 1-1 draws. Maybe even 3. But our last 2 have definitely been 1-1 draws. So I'm going to go for at least a 3 in a row, and hopefully we can get a point. Right. Well, perfect. Thank you very much. everybody, I really hope you enjoyed the first preview of the season. Make sure to go and check out Ed at LOVRBWFC on both Twitter and their podcasts. And obviously, it'll be interesting to hear their take on the game come next week. And for everybody, if you've not checked out the YouTube channel over the last few days, on Tuesday we released our first monthly show. Really go and check that out. It was really fun to record. So yeah, make sure you go and have a look at that one. Obviously, make sure to like this, subscribe to the channel, all of that kind of stuff. And obviously go and, like I said, check Ed out. And yeah, really, thank you very much, Ed, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Yeah, good luck to you guys too.
Perfect. Cheers, guys. Up the Imps.